Hello and welcome to the Walk in Love podcast. I'm TJ.
And I'm Brooke.
And today we're going to continue our conversation from last week. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making us a part of your week. The Walk in Love podcast is a weekly conversation between Brooke and I. The song was probably too low.
Too low or too loud?
That's okay. It was too low.
Okay.
But I fixed it.
You could also fix it in post if you wanted to.
Never.
Cool. That doesn't bother me at all.
The Walk in Love podcast is a weekly conversation between Brooke and I about parenting, marriage, rhythms, faith, emotions, tortilla chips, a place where we laugh and sometimes cry as we try to find the language to live a more joy-filled life. And if you want to live a more joy-filled life, you're in the right place. I feel a little distracted because we're trying something new with the cameras, which always sends me into a little bit of a sweat rage. And then also I updated this.
I know. There's no pieces of tape on those buttons.
Yes, because
they're labeled digitally now.
Yes.
Wow.
Lots of...
Wow.
Okay. Wow.
Yes.
And then it's
so
like,
true.
okay, what was your word of the year? TJ, go ahead and just ask me.
Hey, TJ, what was your word of the year?
Holy Spirit, activate. All right, let's go.
And you might think, oh, there's only 2, 4, 6, 8, except...
Oh, wait. There's pages.
Just go like this.
That's really cool.
I go online. I go click, click, click.
And guess what?
What?
Guess what I'm not anymore.
What are you not anymore?
I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm a loser. A loser.
What is he talking about there?
That's when he falls into the koi pond.
Oh, yeah.
His cell phone asked him for his friends and family.
Yes.
You know, Jan's number, and I hate her. Well, all that to say, I think we're here. We're trying something new. Go on YouTube, watch it there.
You're trying something.
Well, I'm
new.
trying something new.
I'm not saying we're not in it together, because we are. But I would say 90% of the time when we try something new in work, it's your idea. Well, I don't know. Maybe not recently.
I don't think that's true. When it comes to technology,
maybe that's what I'm trying to say.
But when it comes to life and work, I don't think that's true.
Yeah. I guess I meant the technology of work.
I mean, why don't we start with something new that you did last night?
Mm-hmm.
In these chairs.
I did.
Behind my back.
No, not true. Yeah. Bianca and I recorded episode 1 of B&B After Dark.
Tell the genesis of it.
New
I was so
podcast.
excited.
I'm shocked. And I talk about this on episode 1. I never thought I'd have one podcast. I definitely never thought I'd have 2.
Yeah.
So.
You've won more than me.
I know.
So far.
True. So far. So far, so good. The stupid Conan O'Brien bit from probably a decade ago. He played a shofar and then he ended the bit by saying, hey, shofar, so good. And I have never forgotten it.
Wow.
And I couldn't tell you anything else he's ever said.
You don't get a lot of Conan O'Brien references these days.
No, not at all.
Okay. So last night,
yes,
sitting in these chairs.
Yeah.
You're sitting in that chair.
Yes.
Still, no way you could have switched over to this one.
I could have. I thought about it.
But why throw off the mojo?
Why throw off the mojo?
Tell us about it. Tell us about the genesis of it. Okay.
Of the podcast?
You decide.
That's episode 1.
Oh.
So I don't know if I want to give it all away.
That's true.
I've talked about it a little bit.
Will it be available by the time people are listening to this?
It's possible. How long does it take to set up a podcast? That's something I've been meaning to ask you.
It might not be available.
The Spotify part.
Yeah, it might not be available.
Okay. Well.
If you go to Anchor, like we use... Well, no, because Spotify bought Anchor, it might only be available on Spotify to start.
Okay.
And then it takes a while to
trickle out to Apple
and all the other places.
Anyway.
So.
Yeah. I'm not surprised we did it in terms of I'm
a little surprised.
Are you?
Yeah. I'm surprised, not in a bad way. I mean, last night I was so giddy for you guys. Because,
yeah, you were.
And so was Ian. He sent that gif of Lucille Bluth, Jean Parmesan. Because I think men in their 30s often try things that they want to try.
Yeah.
And I don't think women do that as much.
No. And I think some of that is a genuine season of life if you have little kids.
Right.
The physical neediness of a mom's role versus a dad's role. And I'm not saying like time spent with kids, all those things. What are you laughing about? I'm talking about like literally it just takes more from us. I don't know where you're going and I'm nervous.
I said, basically everybody wants a piece of the action.
Oh, right.
When you have
and
little
so
kids.
you do. And so it's like, it's not that maybe we don't want to try new things, but either we literally don't have the time, or if I was given the time or if I made the time myself, I'm like, oof, that requires my brain and I have to have thoughts and new things. It sounds hard. And so,
I think I'm giddy. I think the reason I was so excited is because it felt like this is just something that you two want to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's the literal only reason you're doing it.
Right.
Not, you're not like, we're going to start a podcast because it's going to be a business and it's going to do all these things
No.
and like yada, yada, yada.
I mean, we launched our Patreon and merch last night.
Nice.
But-
New merch is fire. Smash the subscribe button.
Yeah, but it's
Turn on the bell.
Yeah. I'm kidding. We didn't do any of those things. We did joke about
People
it,
are
though.
searching like,
Yeah. Huh?
How do I find
B&B
this
merch? What's going on? But yeah, it was fun. And
I mean, I was in the other room and I could hear you guys
we're
cackling.
trying to keep it around 30 minutes.
Okay.
So they're like a little bit shorter. And yeah, it's a wildly normal podcast about motherhood, everyday life.
I love it.
And last night's episode, burnt burgers. So
What are we doing?
great. We did ask ourselves that many times before we got started. To which I finally said, Bianca, press record. Stop hesitating. Now you're making me nervous. And I wasn't nervous.
Oh, now Bianca will have access to all these
Oh,
buttons.
maybe I'll switch seats then.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You
Couldn't I
want-
just flip the board to face me?
I mean, you could.
Yeah. I will.
Okay. Are we doing any segments today?
I have no idea.
We just kind of sat down.
Yes, I'm aware.
How was your week? Let's start there.
My week was good. I don't remember anything. Do I? Do I remember anything?
I don't know.
What's today? Thursday. Let's back up a day. Oh, Sunny was sick again.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh. She's been getting hit with like stomach bug stuff. So that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
So sad.
We've just been in like kind of grindy mode. We're working on lots of new projects, all behind the scenes, which is really easy for me. Like I have no issue with that. I've never. That's fine. I'm fine
totally
with that.
fine to work on something for months and months and not have anybody see it.
Yeah, that works perfectly for my personality and the type of person that I'm. It works perfectly for the person I'm becoming,
I almost said that.
not the person that I am.
Right. Yeah. When do you think you'll become that person? So I can just like put it in my calendar, time block
How
it
about
out
40?
a little bit.
40 years old.
Okay.
So I got
We
about
got some time.
2 years and
Dang
a
it.
few months.
Okay.
But until then, I'm thriving. Yeah.
That's why I'm literally like, I don't know what we did. And not that I like wasn't present. It's never, because I remember one time my mom asking me when I told her I have a hard time remembering stuff. She's like, are you not present in the moment? Like, is your brain elsewhere
right.
in your daily life? And I'm like, no, it's not.
Right.
Because I know what that feels like. I can say I've been in seasons of that, or I know where like, oh, I'm just like, I'm not here. I'm zoning out. I'm checking out. I'm screensaver mode. It's not that. It's a genuine, I do not remember. Or I shouldn't say I don't remember. I cannot recall quickly.
Yeah, that's
I
a
have
good
to
point.
actually go and do like backwards time math.
Yeah. And because we've been grinding on some of those projects, we didn't sit down to have like our normal, hey, what are we going to talk about on the podcast? Like we know the meat of the
Yes,
podcast,
yes.
HOMEJOY, but this part we were like,
Oh.
I don't know. Which is a shame because I have the Game Changer sound now on the new board.
Oh, well.
And so I was hoping to use
okay.
it. On the spot Game Changer.
Excuse me. I could think of a game changer.
Game changers. Changes to the game such that the game can never be played the same way again.
I have a game changer that's also our ad.
Oh.
Because I'm so sincerely genuine when I say I fully believe that the HOMEJOY course could be a game changer for you, for somebody listening,
1,000%.
for many people listening, for thousands of people. That's what I thought you were going to say.
I would love 1,000
I was
people to buy
like,
HOMEJOY.
1,000. Whoa. Wow.
Yeah.
We're going for it.
I mean, if everyone in the podcast bought a t-shirt, we would sell thousands of t-shirts.
That'd be crazy.
So you guys could also do that. A lot of options for you.
Yeah, I'm wearing the May. Got to figure out which month it is and then which month we're headed into. May's tea of the month.
So am I.
Yours is the navy. He counts the stars and calls them all by name.
Yep. Dry blend.
So good. So good. I am wearing, I don't know which camera to look at. My iPad's kind of in the way of this one. I'm calling it picnic t-shirt in a good way.
Okay.
Because to me, it looks like a 90s picnic. You know those
Like someone,
picnic table covers that are like kind of plasticky, but not like a throwaway one. It's like they're kind of fuzzy on the bottom.
Yeah. We probably had one on a table for like a decade in my house.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, speaking of, remind me, I got to talk
Okay.
about something.
And so I feel like it's kind of looks like that. It says do not worry. But it's like in a cool way. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it so much. Sunny keeps asking, when are you going to make that in kids sizes?
Oh,
And I said, maybe we'll do it for the Christmas collection.
that's so sweet.
Do you want it for Christmas? And I was like, no. Well, yes. Well, never mind. I don't know what to say to that.
Yeah. So your game changer, I interrupted.
That's
HOMEJOY
fine.
course.
I really mean it. And it's not just because I'm like, I wrote the course. Like, but I have not worked hard. Maybe hard's not the right word. Deeply and like thought over, prayed over, read over, like deep dive type work over like in a really long time. I don't know if I ever
I don't know
have
if you've ever done work
in this
quite
kind
like
of
this.
capacity.
Yeah.
And so I feel very proud of it. I feel very excited about it. I feel like it's a culmination. I guess it's
Culmination of a combination.
of a combination of like all the books I've read in the last 5 years that have like rocked my world in our home.
Yep.
On top of like some really practical systems and frameworks that I've implemented in our lives over the last 3 years that have been actual game changers. Like it's rare in the last 2 years, maybe even more than that, that I have no clue what's for dinner and there's no food on the table. It's rare that I'm like anxiety losing my mind because laundry is like it doesn't feel like I'm getting swallowed by it. And I could list many household things like that, like housekeeping things. But yeah, I really think it's really good. I'm excited.
I also think it's really good, which leads me to my game changer.
Oh, okay.
My game changer is I cannot express, which is also my advertisement. I'm going to use the game. We're going to use the game changers as our ads today.
I like it.
How excited I am for the best is yet to come. Like I say it in every post we write about it, that when if I'm not on stage, I'm going to be in the front row
100%.
because Josh, Jeremy, Christy, I think April's coming too.
That'd be great.
Jeremy's wife. They're just people that I want to be like.
Yeah.
And so when they have something to say,
And
I
learn
want to
from.
listen.
Yeah,
And I know that I just know how thoughtful they are about the subjects that they approach.
Intentional.
Like
yeah.
Josh and Christy with the emotional health and, the ability to talk to each other and talk to your kids. And then Jeremy with just sort of like the mad scientist vibe.
What if we did it differently?
Towards doing life differently. And I just I'm all in on it.
Yeah.
And so, obviously we give you a lot of ways to support the podcast. That one is a big one.
Yeah.
And we'd love to meet you. We'd love to say hi to you, take pictures with you.
I'm actually really excited about that because unlike the Christmas event we did and will do, we're not going to be on stage as much.
Right.
And so I'm very excited to not be on stage, but be able to talk to people and like actually hang out.
You'll be on stage though, babe.
I know I will be, but not from beginning to end. Oh, I'm twirling? Oh gosh, I got to order a new baton case. Okay.
All right. So
distracting the whole time. Literally nonstop in the background. I'm just twirling off to the side with a single spotlight.
just going hard.
Just never
sweating.
I'm dropping it over and over. I'm like, God, I'm just like keep trying. They're trying to teach through it. So stressful. I twirled. What did I twirl the other day? Oh, that tiny little baton thing, light up toy baton Daisy has.
Yep.
I picked it up and was twirling it in the kitchen. It was no big deal. I picked it up, was twirling it in the kitchen for the girls at the table. You would have thought I was doing legitimate like
backflips
tricks because they were just like, and it is because like I did go over my head and I spun and then I caught it like like behind my back. So
Okay.
I'm not going to lie. It was halfway impressive. And they were like, whoa, Mom. And I was like, yes.
Still got it, babe.
Still got it for a few more years until they're like, please stop doing that.
Mom, stop
It's
it.
super embarrassing.
Come
Put
out in
the
your
baton
leotard.
Down. Oh, the thought of being in a leotard right now.
Your nightmare?
Yeah. What is the opposite of a game changer? Like the worst. That just sounds. I mean, I guess it's kind of like a bathing suit, but
It feels like a little bit sketchy, though.
well, it's like when you're in a bathing suit, you're like, oh, I get it. You're going to swim. You're going to get in water.
Oh, I'm fine. It's just that.
Nope, that's not it.
But if I was just like randomly in a leotard and they're a little shinier, a little tighter, it's not, it wouldn't be great.
Because I don't have it.
What are you looking for?
The worst.
Oh, John Ralphio.
Yeah.
I don't know if you
All
have
right.
it.
So today we're going to talk about
Yes.
something that you want to talk about.
Yeah. Are
something
we
that-
diving in?
Let's dive in.
Let's dive in.
Okay.
Boop, 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 ba-doop, ba-doop. I always feel like anytime anybody says let's dive in, we need like a song to play afterwards. Okay, so last week we were talking about the idea of redeeming productivity.
Wait. Time out.
That was me
My
reminding my
mom,
words.
my mother,
Okay.
Cindy Mousetis,
Yes.
text me.
Okay.
She was in the room helping me
On the cruise?
when I was sick.
Redemption.
She said that the one night that she wasn't is because no one came to get her. So
Right.
we had like a boys' room
Right.
and a girls' room. So in the boys' room, it would have been me, my two brothers, Nick and Michael, and then
Yeah.
my cousin Greg.
Okay.
And so and then I learned from a listener that when you're sitting on the toilet and it's coming out of both ends, it's called the double dragon.
Oh,
Which
no.
is
I
such
have
a
never heard that description,
But it's
it's so
perfect.
accurate because it is fire. It is actual fire
from both ends.
happening. And you're like, the devil is in me. This is the worst. It's so bad.
I'm rebuking him.
Literally. Get it out of me.
So my mom did want to
Make it known.
make it known.
Of course. I figured she
She
was.
had no excuse for the soda pass though.
No.
So
You just keep holding on to that, okay? That seems real. Maybe when you're 40, you can let that go.
ooh, maybe.
Maybe. Someday, babe, we're going to go on a cruise. And the thing is
Oh,
now
I
you don't
found-
even want a soda pass.
While I'm on the subject of family, I found out some other news. So years ago, I can't remember how old we were, little kids.
Okay.
I got so mad at my sister Samantha,
Okay.
my younger sister, that the worst punishment I thought I could inflict on her
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
was banning her from ever playing Nerf again.
Right.
So
With Nerf guns.
with Nerf guns.
Yes.
So I walked to our bedroom.
Yeah. Were you sharing a room or
No,
no?
me and Nick were sharing a room.
Okay.
And with a Sharpie marker, I
Look
wrote
out, world.
on the underside of the bunk bed, Sam can't play Nerf.
Wow.
Period.
You got her.
Got her good.
Mm-hmm.
And the lifelong ban has been in place. Wherever that bunk bed has lived, if Sam sets foot in that house, she is
can't play
banned.
Nerf.
She can't even look at him.
Yeah.
Don't even look at it, Sam. I was informed on Nick's visit that the bunk bed has been destroyed.
Okay.
It finally, so
The ban has been lifted
let it be
or
known.
demolished.
Let it be known today that Sam
free.
has free reign to play Nerf in any state, in any home, on any person's land,
in a leotard if she'd like.
if she'd like. So that's just family
Wow.
update.
That's a great family
The Nerf
update.
ban has been lifted.
Yeah. I don't know if I ever got that mad.
Oh, what was funny
I
is
have
like,
two memories. Taylor and I got along really well. It was just the two of us. And so I feel like that was some of it, that we were just like, well, if we don't get along, we have nobody to play with. So let's just figure it out. One time was over instant mac and cheese. So like when you
Okay.
could make the mac and cheese in the little like single serving
Yep.
things, you would microwave it.
basically poison.
Basically now. Yes. And so it says on the instructions to put like fill with water to this
Yep.
line and microwave it. I decided to fill mine with milk to that line because when you make regular mac and cheese,
Okay.
you're not keeping the water in there for the
Yep.
sauce, you're keeping the milk. Well, Taylor was livid.
He just wasn't having
He wasn't
it.
into it, which is so funny because I'm the rule follower. And he was like, you can't do milk. And I was like, I'm doing milk. And we were like, that's it. That was our fight. I
Did you
remember
ban him
it.
from anything?
No, I didn't ban him from anything.
Okay.
One time I accidentally kicked him in the face doing a cartwheel.
Okay.
That was a moment, but that was total accident.
Right.
Felt real bad.
Mine was a malicious ban.
Yeah,
Like
no.
she got kicked out of the Nerf League forever.
Yeah. Oh man.
So anyways,
Anyway.
family update complete.
Completed. Okay. So last week we were talking about redeeming productivity and what it means to be productive as believers. You know, we hear that word and we do think about, like we only think about just getting more done or like a to-do list. It's so heavily associated with like our practical effectiveness. You know, I'm good at this because I get a lot done. I'm blah, blah, blah because I do more than this person, or I just like go. Look how productive I am. So, and we talked a little bit about how glory is the goal, that like, that is why we're here. That is our purpose on earth. That is what is at the very, very top of our pyramid, right? Or umbrella or whatever you want to put at the top. And then as we come down, as long as everything is pointing back up towards glory being the goal, then I don't want to say we're good, but like kind of like as long as that is our mindset and our heart and our posture and what we're praying about, like glory is the goal, then whether you, because this is from the HOMEJOY course, like whether you make dinner this way or do your laundry that way, or your Sabbath is on this day or it's on that, like whatever it is.
This job, that job.
Exactly. As long as glory is
leotard,
the goal.
no leotard.
100%. Baton, no baton. Glory is the goal.
There's a little bit more.
I do believe that the baton adds a lot of glory, especially once you light both ends on fire. But so
it's a separate course.
That's a totally separate course. It's Patreon only. It's way behind a paywall for sure. Okay, so with all this in mind, what does it look like to be productive as believers? So we were saved to bear fruit. Okay. So like productivity itself is a vehicle for honoring God. You can be productive and bring glory to God and like point back to him in all that you do. But what's interesting, and I love this, I've read about it in many different places, and every time it shows up, I'm like, yes, preach. Like this is so true, that modern productivity is, and I think our homes and our home life, housekeeping, all those things fall into it, is typically viewed through metaphors of like factories and machines.
Accurate. While
the Bible talks about productivity only ever using organic metaphors. So we use words like efficiency, output, it's a well-oiled machine. Or we talk about our brains as like hard drives, or I'm running out of space. We don't have enough bandwidth for that right now. Like we're using all of these like machine technology phrases. And I think that puts us at a real disadvantage and a real misunderstanding of what we're actually called to do with our productivity. Because if I say to somebody, I don't have enough bandwidth, I'm talking about my inability to do something or get something done or say yes to something or whatever. And so if we can change it to be organic, and so like
change it to be more biblical,
which is like it's all organic things being said, that we are called to be productive like a tree, not an assembly line. So I have a little like sidebar about this that I think is interesting, that when I think about the difference in my personal, I'll speak for myself, my personal mindset, when I think about how nurturing I am to a plant or something that is alive, compared to how I treat a piece of appliance, like an appliance or machinery or technology, it's wildly different. Like if my garden is suffering, or my fiddly fig downstairs or whatever, I take the time to nurture it back to health. I'm slow, I'm gentle. I'm probably talking to myself while doing it, like, you got it, little buddy. Like, I like literally, I'm like saying things like this as I water it, take care of it. I'm thinking about it. And then something like our phone or like a Nintendo back in the day stops working and we're smacking it.
A printer.
Or a printer, great example.
Arch nemesis of
the worst
technology.
But there's like zero grace involved, right?
No.
We're smacking the side of it. We're blowing inside of the...
Accurate.
What was the N64 cartridges? What did you
Super Nintendo.
Super Nintendo.
All of them. Nintendo, Super Nintendo.
Like, we're instantly mad it's not working immediately. We think that it's garbage. We're probably not saying, you got it, little buddy, when we're trying to fix our printer. Like, we're in a very different headspace when something is alive or should be alive.
Right.
Maybe we need to bring it back to health, or something is a piece of technology or an appliance. And so when we embrace this organic view of productivity, we're able to accomplish more of what really matters. I think we can feel less frenzied, and we can produce work of all kinds, like work, big picture work. I don't just mean like sitting at your job kind of work, in a much more God honoring way, because God has designed us for fruitfulness, and productivity is fruitfulness. So I'll ask you a question,
Okay.
but I think you already know because we've already talked about this, but let's pretend like you've never heard
I might
this.
not know.
Wow. Have you ever noticed that fruits and veggies in a store are in the produce section?
I have now.
You have. Okay. So that's because like way before the assembly lines and Henry Ford, who invented that, right?
Yep.
That's who invented that. The word produce referred to a crop yield. So a productive apple tree is one that bears a lot of apples.
Mm-hmm.
Duh. It's like you hear that and you're like, oh, I know that.
Total
That makes sense.
Yep.
And this is how the Bible talks about productivity. And this is the kind of productivity that we were made for. And I'm telling you, the book Redeeming Productivity goes like deep dive into this. It's like a lot. I think I'm skimming some of it and then adding in a lot of other thoughts as well. But if you're like, I want to read about this for hours.
Great book.
Great book.
Pretty skinny too.
Yeah. So just to reference 2 verses, like Psalm 1:3, he is like a tree planted by the streams of water that yields its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither. John 15:8, this is to my Father's glory that you bear much fruit. So knowing that we're made in the image of God, which we talked about last week, that our purpose here on earth is to bring glory to him. And then you ask the question, what does that look like? Which we love, which is by bearing fruit. So I want you and whoever is listening to start viewing your home, your physical house and your home as alive.
Okay.
Sort of like the Encanto house,
All right.
but
Casita.
kind of, sort of. That one's more like magical alive.
Yeah. We're just thinking of it as more of like a...
It's capable of growing. It's capable of blooming. It's capable of being productive in a season and then resting in a season.
I would definitely say that word to me is more the home word than the house word. Like I feel like house, I'm thinking physical structures, walls, drywall, electricity, all that
And
kind of
that's
stuff.
kind of where I'm also picturing the Encanto house coming into it.
And then home is like, that's the feel, like, you know, home is where the heart is, as cheesy as
Right.
that is. That's true. And so
Yeah.
like when I think of the word home, that's what I'm picturing when you're talking about this.
Yeah. So is to you listening, as long as you're not driving, I want you to close your eyes. You don't have to if you don't want to. You can just stare right into mine if you'd like. But I want you to close your eyes and picture
Stare right into the camera.
your the whole time for those of them who can't close their eyes. I want you to picture your house, your home, your apartment, you know, wherever you live, your parents' house, wherever you're living right now. And I want you to go mentally stand in the front yard.
Okay.
I want you to imagine the whole house.
Which is good for you to be barefoot so you can get some grounding in.
Very good. So smart. Mentally take your shoes off out there.
Yeah.
Ground yourself into the grass or cement, whatever. This is you're outside. Okay. Imagine the whole house alive and growing with the energy of life. Huge vines, blossoms maybe wrapping around the front door, welcoming you inside, leaves and branches surrounding the bedroom windows or the garage door. And then I want you to walk yourself towards your front door, your main entrance. And I want you to step through your door and maybe notice like the sweet smell of maybe whatever is blooming around your front door. So when I think about it, I think about honeysuckle because it's such a strong scented like vine and flower.
Exactly what that is too.
Exactly
so,
what that
yeah,
smells like. Yeah. Maybe when I walk through my front door or your front door, you can picture yourself like actually picking fruit as you walk in.
Mm-hmm.
There's some sort of branches running through everywhere so that you're physically picking fruit. And then inside your house, whatever room you enter first, and as you look around, the same type of energy is all around. Things are blooming, fruit is growing inside. Obviously, this is magical. Don't worry about bugs or anything crazy like that. Your kids can pick it and eat it. There's bowls of it on the table. There's different colors, like different colored flowers blooming around each kid's door. I love thinking about the difference in what maybe the door frame or like Daisy's room might look like for us compared to like the energy and vibe in the girls' room.
Right.
Like when I think about the bigger girls, it's like huge flowers, ridiculous butterflies. Like it's just so magical, kind of like the house from Encanto. Okay, so open your eyes if you were walking through that.
Swerve back onto the road.
Right. Swerve back onto the road. Put your shoes back on. If you're like me, I imagine that you might feel a new sense of like warmth or gratitude towards your home when you picture it as this place that is like growing and alive and productive and living in its own season, and a little less like, oh, I'm just annoyed that this thing is broken, or that I can't figure out this system, or, you know, whatever.
I haven't updated this part or painted that room or all that kind of stuff.
Yes. Yeah. How long have we been going? I can't see a time.
31 minutes.
Okay, 31 minutes. So I love that. And especially because I think there's a lot of tie-ins, and I teach a lot on this in the course about shifting your mindset to not only view your home as alive, but to sort of view it as your life garden. And so I'm going to skip a few of my notes here which I can save for the course, about the difference between home and house, and the difference between housekeeping and like homemaking, and like how wonderful homemaking is if we can get it out of our heads that it's this like 1950s version that's like that doesn't seem great, you know, or that has maybe been pushed into the extremes of like, oh, that's not good.
Also, it's been villainized culturally.
100%.
Like, I actually think it's probably not as bad as people make it out to be now.
Right. Exactly. But home, and part of the reason I named the course, actually you came up with the name, and then I was like, I love it. Let's do that. Nice. HOMEJOY is because like, as it's talked about in the Bible, and as we think about this like productive organic metaphor, that if we're supposed to be productive like a tree, and you think about an apple tree, if you went to find a fruit tree right now, depending on where you live and when you're listening to this, there's a chance that it would be blooming, like just flowers blooming. You might find it full of fruit, or you might find it for like probably half of the year looking like it's doing nothing.
Right.
But it's not doing nothing.
Sort of like our first half of the year has been with business.
That's how you're feeling, okay?
Yes.
So think about it, right?
100%.
You do feel that. You wish that we were more visually productive, that it looked like we were more productive, but like that tree is still doing good things. It is still growing. It is getting ready. It is resting. It's doing what it needs to do. More than rest, you know, on the insides of it all. But we were made to, you know, straight out of the Bible, like we were made to ground ourselves in the goodness of creation, to tend, to cultivate, and to keep a specific place on earth. And that's where homemaking comes in, because for most of us, that is our specific place on earth. And I think a lot of times when we're like, to tend, to cultivate, I'm like, oh, I need like 4 acres of land.
Right.
And it's
probably
like,
some chickens and maybe some of those boots that like go up to my knees.
That sounds amazing. Like, go do that if that's your version. But it's such like gardening, farming, organic metaphors that we're like, oh, I don't think that's quite for me.
Right.
Or I don't know what that looks like in my life. So I'm not going to think about it often.
Yeah.
And what it really is like, it's home. Like we were made for home. And so Sally Clarkson, who has written many, many books and has podcasts and has all great things. She's
your girl, Sally.
I don't know, in her, I don't want to say her age because I don't know. I mean, she's got grandkids and all sorts of stuff. 60s, 70s. I have no idea how old she is, but she's not just like brand new to this homemaking like thing and all the stuff she talks about. She's a fantastic book that she wrote with one of her daughters called, one of her daughters, or does she only have one daughter?
Was Phoebe there?
I can't remember. Called The Life-Giving Home. And I love this quote.
Whoa, I wasn't expecting
from The Life-Giving Home, which is, we must understand homemaking not as a retreat from the fallen world, not as a retrenchment from culture, but as a profound engagement with it. We must understand the creation of home as work of the incarnation power and creativity. Kingdom come doesn't just happen on some cosmic scale. The whole point is that it invades the physical at the humblest level. And we kind of talk about this coming out of your integrated notes. Like, our homes need to be a place where people can see and taste and feel the kingdom of God.
Absolutely.
They're an outpost and not just a crib. If you don't know what that's from
I want to say 164.
a couple
Or
episodes
160
ago.
Yeah, 164 or 165.
Titled The Code on How We Think Different, part 1 or part 2, maybe.
Something in there.
Something like that.
Listen to all of our episodes.
Here's the plan. Go back to episode 1. No, I'm kidding. That would be so long. But do we need to stop? Is Daisy crying really hard? Okay. I can't tell. My home and my house, I mean, I've lived in 2 different homes since we've been married. And I feel like it's not complete in any sense of like, I mean, we still don't have nightstands. That's always my joke.
I made that joke. So in Redeeming Productivity, the book,
Yeah.
at one point he talks about how like you shouldn't have your phone beside your bed.
Right.
And he's like, all that should be on your nightstand is like a water bottle, like a glass of water, a
something to
pen,
write with,
and a piece of paper, and a journal. And I was like, well, joke's on you. I don't even have a nightstand. So
it's so good. So like, my home, our home has been almost 2 decades in the making, which is really cool. And I don't feel like it's all like together, like decor wise or anything like that. But I do feel like in the last few years, as we've been living more rhythmically and just being intentional and talking about all these things, I do feel like we have more of these foundational things in place to make our home a home. And that far outweighs not having nightstands,
right,
or something like that.
Making your home a home, or making your home a place where you can taste and see the kingdom of God, far outweighs any fancy house you could ever have.
Right. Yeah.
And anybody can do that.
Right.
You don't need a certain amount of square footage. You don't need a certain amount of bathrooms or sinks or bedrooms.
Yeah.
You need the Lord, and you need to ask him and invite him into your space over and over again. And then you need to live out his ways proactively with a heart towards him on the daily basis. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it says in Proverbs 14:1, the wise woman builds her house, but the foolish pulls it down with her hands. And so what I love about that is the word builds, is that it's this like active verb. It's not just like the wise woman buys a house with her husband. The end.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's this active, ongoing, like, and in the same way you would build a real physical home, like if you and I knew how to do that and we could build our own house, we would have a plan. We would be following some sort of plan that we have dreamt about and talked about and built. And so there's this intentionality behind a wise woman builds her house. And so if we're thinking about our homes as our life gardens, where we have the freedom to plan and plant as we wish to make them productive, useful, flourishing, all these things, homemaking is such a powerful kingdom endeavor that allows us to embody God's love in like just the everyday moments of our lives and the big picture stuff, but way down into the like dirt, I'd call it, of life. And so I would encourage you listening, if you've never done so, to take, 20 minutes, an hour, a day, whatever you have.
2 days?
That could be.
20 seconds?
That's probably way too short. But to actually sit down and jot it down, or maybe you jot it down first and then you realize, I'd like to put some more time and thought into this. And then you ask for schedule an afternoon where you can get away. But I think there's a lot of power. The new year happens and we're all like, let's make plans. And we go to a coffee shop or whatever. And we like write down all these ideas of what we're going to get done, like to-do list style get done, machine assembly line type productivity. But if instead we would sit down and put some thought and energy into like, what do I want growing, blooming, flourishing in its seasons in my home, in terms of like the big picture, like rhythms and family traditions or music and art, or like all the good things that the Lord has given us to experience him and his beauty and point glory towards him and all that. I think it would serve us well to put some intentional thought into that. Yeah. In addition to like, here's the backsplash I want. Right. Again, I'm not negating it. There's actually a ton of power in beauty and all things like that. Like the Lord he is an orderly God, and he has made beautiful thing. And culture 100%. Has told us that beauty is just extra. It's just this like
frivolous almost.
Yes.
It's not.
Yes. And it's so not. And that is not what I'm saying. I'm not slamming the backsplash at all. But I think I
think sometimes we focus on those to-do goals, and then we get to the end of them.
We feel the same.
We feel the same.
Or maybe we're proud of it, or we love it.
We're proud of it. It looks great. It makes us feel better when
Yeah.
we walk into a room. I don't know why I said better wrong.
Better.
Better. But there's still this element of like, has the kingdom come into my home because of that? The answer might be yes.
Yeah, it very well could be.
But back to your point of just like, we make these long to-do lists that are often just focused on like, I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I want to do this, and I want to do this. And I think a lot of us, talking about myself specifically, are in a season where I need to make my to-do list or my goal list or whatever in a way that's like, I am heading into this season where there looks like nothing's happening. And I don't think we visit that season enough of life. And it's why I love Jeremy Pryor so much, because he's often thinking about things from like a very different, deep perspective that I feel like he understands that like eventually this is going to bloom. Eventually my kids are going to bloom.
Yes.
What do I want them to look like?
Now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of us, and I'm feeling this year, that just like my tree looks barren. It feels barren and it's frustrating. Yeah. But I know, and I keep telling this to you, and I keep telling this to myself, that I believe all of this will bear fruit. Yes. I believe all the work that we're doing, all the things that we're trying to like recalibrate or trying to, I don't want to use the word recalibrate. That's a mechanical word. All the things we're trying to rebloom, cultivate.
There you go.
Like dig out some of the weeds that have grown.
Yeah.
Will all make the yield more bountiful.
Yeah.
But man, it's hard.
It's
really
I
think we avoid that in the name of, well, if I just do a bunch of stuff, I'll feel better. And there's some truth to that. But in the long run, I think your life will be more...
But that puts us on a hamster wheel of, I only feel peace. I only feel whatever if I'm accomplishing.
Yeah.
And that's not what brings real peace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's what brings real glory to God. I think God wants our hearts alive for him. And I think in the endless wheel of to-do lists, I don't know if we're living those heart alive, full lives that he wants us to live.
Yeah.
And we're resigned to like sort of a place of apathy or frustration or anxiety. And when we take a season to really think about or cultivate, or take a season a year, a day a year, a week a year, to really think about, what do I want to bloom this year?
Yes.
That would totally radically change our lives for the next 50 years.
That's very different. That's a question of, who do I want to be and become versus what am I going to do?
Yeah. And who do I want my kids to become? I mean, Josh is always saying like parenting is a bad phrase. It doesn't totally encompass what we do as parents. And so they use the phrase becoming, because that's what our kids are doing. They're becoming a version of us. And so if I'm not focused on what's going to bloom in my life or what I'm planting to harvest later, my kids won't have that repetitive thought process. They won't have that sort of rhythm of life.
Or I think they can grow up to feel a lot of shame and confusion when life puts them into a season of things being more barren. And then you're like, nothing's happening. Yeah. I've never seen this happen before. Like something's wrong with me. I'm not doing it right. Versus like just being like, that's the season you're in. And so, I have a whole module 4 is all about living in your season. That's interesting. You said like totally on your own about like, I forget exactly how you phrased it, but like pulling out some of the weeds that have grown is what you said. And that's literally how this section of the course ends, is that just like, if we're picturing our life as a whole and our home as a whole, because it's all connected, and our productivity in bearing fruit in all of these things, like a garden, something that's alive, I mean, what happens to gardens if you don't attend to them, pay attention to them? Like they become overgrown.
Yep.
They do. They get they get eaten by pests, or you're just like, what happened?
Yeah.
Like it all sounds magical and like in the Encanto house until you leave it alone for a year, and then it's just like sheer chaos. And so we do need to tend to our lives with the kindness and grace and nurture that we would something that's alive and in the process of becoming and blooming and growing, and with way less this like technological, mechanical harshness. One of my favorite ways to tend to our lives is to name what matters most and leave the rest behind. And so that is the whole second part of the course. Naming what matters, why it matters, how to name what matters. And then, I'm really excited about it.
I'm very proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
It's really good. And this will be the last time we talk about it on the podcast from like a content perspective.
Yeah.
It should be available
in the next 2 weeks. That's the plan.
Yep.
Hopefully sooner, but we'll see.
And as soon as it is, I'll put links in the show notes for the course.
Yeah.
But yeah, well done, Brooke. Well said.
Oh, thanks.
And I would say, like, you know, you talking about sort of this like weed-filled garden, I would say, unfortunately, a lot of our lives probably feel and look like that. And we're embarrassed. You know, our old house in Pennsylvania, the garden beds were like all the way in the back. We had this long, skinny lot. Yeah. And the garden beds were all the way in the back.
Which you couldn't even see because the driveway blocked it.
The garage blocked
it. Sorry. The garage blocked it. Yeah.
And so there were times where that thing just ran out of amok.
Yeah.
Ran amok.
Amok.
Like full trees were growing in it, like weed trees.
That's right. I forgot about that one time.
And I think about how I was so glad it was in the backyard, because if that had all been in my front yard, I would have been super embarrassed, and I would have tended to it.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of us,
shame would have pushed you, or like embarrassment would have pushed you to tend to it,
or just like acknowledgement. I don't think it's always negative. I think if I just was walking, you know, I'm
like, oh, I see it. Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. And so I think a lot of us might have a garden that looks like that because it is out of sight, out of mind, or because we have 4 kids under 4, or because we've moved, or we got a new job, or all these various reasons, or we're dealing with health issues, or our family's falling apart, or whatever. And so our garden has not been tended to. And we think, oh, I can never do that because of all of this, all of this intense stuff right before me.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have to, at some point, you have to go and tend that garden.
Yeah.
You have to.
And that's the beauty. And you can start small.
Yeah.
You can pick one area.
Yeah.
Like at no point am I taking this metaphor of your life garden of your home and being like, it's this perfectly manicured thing that looks like, I don't know, Oprah's Gardens or whatever.
Yeah. Like, you know,
like
so
that's not what I'm saying at all.
I'll share some honesty right now in our lives that, I mean, I think we're always being honest, but in terms of our garden right now, our marriage is great. Our homeschool, kids, family team vibe is great. Physical fitness, I'm more fit than I've ever been.
Yeah.
Brooke is going to the gym at 4:30 a.m.
Yeah.
There are many areas of our lives that are great, but our finances are tough right now.
Yeah.
And so that's an area right now where we're finding weeds and so like you said,
and it's like it feels hard to plant something now. I mean, you guys literally planted seeds yesterday.
Yeah.
You and the kids. And Sunny ran out there this morning, ready for it to be fully grown.
Yeah. Ready for a watermelon.
We got to go check our seeds. And I was like, oh, honey, you know, thinking like.
And that's why I did plant them from seeds, because I want the girls to see how slow that process is.
Yes.
And I think I need to see how slow that process is.
Yeah.
Because in the area that feels frustrating right now to us, which is finances, which there have been times in our lives where that area is not frustrating. And there's been times in our lives where our marriage is frustrating, or a relationship with our kids is frustrating, or family, or whatever. Yeah. The only reason I'm saying it is just because I get it. Like I feel that. And there's part of me 100% that wants to just be like, I'm just going to focus on all the other parts that are blooming.
Yeah.
And maybe
ignore that.
Maybe that
It's
will
gonna go in
take
the
care of
backyard.
itself. And I've definitely taken that route
Yeah.
before.
It's going to
in
weed
life.
itself someday.
Yeah.
LOL.
And it's just not. And it's just not. So every
Yeah.
Monday I go through our normal financial meeting. Every month I go through the books with the accountant. Like
Yeah.
I'm still doing these things as painful as they are at times.
The tending, cultivating things.
I know that I have to do them. And so my encouragement to you is like, if there's an area of your life that needs cultivating and tending to, that has, if your fiddle leaf is dead in this certain area and you need to bring it back to life,
Yeah.
don't ignore it,
Yeah.
because it's not going to weed itself.
Yeah.
And that's a lesson that mature people learn over and over again. And so harness some of that maturity and step into it. And you might need help. You might need to ask a friend. Like I had to call our financial planner the other day. I was like, I just need some help on what's going on. If you could just provide some clarity. And he did.
Yeah.
And I think 4 or 5 years ago, if we were in this position, I probably wouldn't have scheduled that call. I
Right.
wouldn't have
Avoided it.
and
Yeah.
just hope for the best,
Right. Yeah.
And so, yeah.
It's why so many people, especially probably a little bit older than us, preach so, not intensely, like in a positive way, like so excitedly about the spiritual benefits of actually gardening. Like for realsies,
Yeah.
like planting food, growing things
Yeah.
like that, because it teaches you. It's such a physical, what does it look like? Reminder of slowness, of seasons, of good things take time to grow and bloom and do all those things. And like, you do have to get out there and you have to weed and you have to pay attention and you have to pinch and prune. And like, if you really want your tomato plant to be productive, you have to pinch away some stuff to get it to was something that my grandpa was so good at and did his whole life, was garden everything from flowers to vegetables to all the things. And I know that he used to talk about how like having his hands out there in the dirt, working on those things was constantly this like refining, reminding, like what we're called to be like, relationship with Jesus, which is so cool.
Yeah.
And it made it way cooler, if that's even the word to use, when he'd hand me a container of like a basket of tomatoes,
Right.
to know that like that's what it went through and that's what he went through to get them there. And that's what he was praying through and through all those things. And then it like the fruit then becomes so much sweeter because of the journey.
Yeah.
So,
And I would say like, Brooke shared earlier in the year when we were reading through The Voice of the Heart, that picture of being that old oak tree.
yes.
And when I think about that old oak tree isn't made stronger or better or more stable or has more shelter for people because I watched more TV or because I played more video games or because I scrolled on Instagram a little bit more. But if I garden, I definitely see the benefits to that oak tree. If I do hard things, if I stay consistent with exercise, if I stay consistent with the financial meetings, if I stay consistent in hard things, that oak tree is stronger.
Yeah.
And that's what I want, because I don't want to just be a fun dad at 30, almost 38. I want to be an amazing spiritual leading grandpa at 80.
Yes.
And that person is made better by the things I'm doing now.
By the things you're planting today
or
ripping out today.
Yeah. And so I always need that reminder. And
someone sent me
yeah,
somebody, I believe they had it commissioned, if I
Yeah.
understood the note correctly. Someone who listens. I think I know her name. I can picture her face on Instagram,
Okay.
but I'm panicked to say her name because I don't want to be wrong.
is it Sweza?
Sweza?
That was always
Swalami?
that's Sunny's.
Fake name. Hey, what do you want to name this Barbie or whatever? How about Sweza? I'm like, wow. And then she'll be like, Sweza. I'm like, ooh, which one is it? I'm nervous. I'm going to say the wrong one.
Girl?
No, actually, like had somebody draw the tree I was talking about because it was sort of big like an oak tree, but it was like long and flowy like a willow tree, but it was also blooming like maybe a cherry tree. And so it was like not a real tree in real life. And it was really cool to see this drawing and be like, yes, that is what I'm working towards.
Yep. And I feel
and
like
that's why my productivity in my to-do list it matters. It matters to God. It matters to me. I'm not saying getting things done doesn't matter. Like, that is not the point of this course at all. I'm going to tell you how to get some serious stuff done, but it's all pointing towards glory, it's all helping to like prune and plant and grow our lives and these like longer multi-generational type things.
I love it.
Which is really cool.
So the course will be available in a few weeks, and we'll put all that. We'll share it in all the places, text all the people, send the emails, do all the things. But I think that's all we have for today.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for making us a part of your week, and hopefully this worked on YouTube. Maybe go to YouTube and see if it did.
Okay.
I'm hoping it did.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Okay, I love you. Bye.